What if I told you that the biggest enemy of your goals isn't lack of willpower, laziness, or distraction, but your own brain? That's right, your brain is literally programmed to sabotage your goals. But here it is the interesting part. Once you understand your brain's programming language, you can hack this system and particularly force it to help you achieve your objectives. Today, I will show you the three-step system that I discovered after years of trying to understand why it was so difficult to maintain my goals, even being a programmer and understanding how systems work. Have you ever had that moment of euphoria when you decide now it's going to happen? Monday, you wake up super motivated, make your coffee, plan the entire week, start that diet, go to your workout, everything perfect. Thursday, you are still excited. Wednesday, that little voice appears. Oh, just today I will take a little break. And by the end of the week, you are exactly in the same place as before, wondering what went wrong this time. That feeling of why can't I stay disciplined is particularly universal. Everyone is hitting the same wall, and it's not your fault. Modern science shows that our brain has developed specific mechanisms to avoid change, and this makes total sense from an evolutionary standpoint. Our ancestors lived in an environment where conserving energy and avoiding risks meant survival. The guy who keeps trying new things and leaving his comfort zone had great chance to becoming dinner for some predator. So your brain is essentially running prehistoric software that sees your goal of waking up at 5 in the morning to work out as a potential risk to your survival. And here comes the frustrating part. When you try to force a change, your brain activates powerful protection systems. It's like you installed a super paranoid antivirus that blocks anything new you want to do. Have you noticed how easy it is to find excuses when it comes to postponing something important? But I have a good news. There is a way to reprogram your brain. And no, it doesn't involve downloading an app or making an update with a USB cable in the back of your neck, Matrix style. After years struggling with this as a programmer, facing insane deadlines and still trying to maintain a workout routine, diet, and studies, I developed what I call the NERD system, and this completely changed my game. NERD is an acronym for neuroplasticity, stimulation, repetition, and dopamine. These are the four fundamental elements for hacking your brain's code and making it work in your favor. But let's start breaking this down. First, neuroplasticity. This is the most important principle and the good news that science has discovered. Your brain is not closed software. It's more like open source code that can be rewritten. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to form new neural connections based on your experience. For example, when I started running, my brain literally hated it. Every day of running training was a battle. My brain triggered all possible alarms. It's too cold outside, you didn't sleep enough, it's better to start tomorrow. You probably know these thoughts too. This is your ancestral software trying to preserve energy. But neuroplasticity means that with the right stimuli, you can make new connections until your brain associates running with something positive. Your brain can learn new patterns, but it needs to be tricked a little in the process. This brings us to the E in the system, stimulation. Your brain needs to be stimulated in the right way to create new connections. And this is where a basic programming principle comes in, which is breaking complex tasks into micro objectives. When I started running, I didn't set the goal of run 10 kilometers. I started with put on running shoes, just that, and then walk to the door. Then run for 5 minutes. These micro goals are like small ifs that we put in the code, but in your brain code. If I put my shoes, then I walk to the door. And that's not all. You wouldn't believe how this simple principle of micro stimulation changed my relationship with my goals. In programming, we usually start with the most basic functions and only then build more complex systems. And your brain works exactly like that. Now let's go to the R, repetition. This is the part nobody wants to hear, but it's unavoidable. Your brain won't reprogram itself with a single positive experience. Neuroscience shows that you need to repeat something between 21 and 60 times to create a new neural pathway strong enough. It's like when you are programming and need to run a loop several times to process a large amount of data. There is no shortcut here, but there is a hack I discovered to make this repetition much easier, and I will share it in a moment. Finally, the D of the system, dopamine. This is the master key, the cherry on top. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter responsible for the sensation of reward and motivation. It's the fuel that makes you want to repeat a behavior. Did you know that the reason you can't stop scrolling on Instagram for hours is because each new post, each notification, each new history releases a small dose of dopamine. The devs of these platforms have hacked your dopamine system. But what if you could do the same hack for your healthy habits? Well, you can, and I will show exactly how. Now let's get to what really matters. How to apply the nerd system in practice with specific techniques for each element. For neuroplasticity, the technique I use is what I call cold visualization. And it works like this. Every night before sleeping, for just 2 minutes, I mentally visualize with as much detail as possible myself executing the goal I want to achieve. When I started morning training, I visualized each step, the alarm ringing, me getting up immediately without snoozing, drinking water, putting on workout clothes, and feeling amazing afterward. And the secret is to visualize not just the actions, but mainly the positive sensations. And what does this do? It creates a neural pathway before you even perform the action. It's like writing code and testing it mentally before running it. Your brain doesn't fully distinguish between vivid visualization and reality. For the E of stimulation, use what I call the micro commits technique. This technique comes directly from my experience as a programmer. In GitHub, which is our project management system, there each micro change we save with a specific message. And we do this constantly instead of making thousands of changes and only them saving. Apply this to your goals. For example, if you want to read more, don't start with I will read 1 hour a day. Start with, I will read just 1 page today. If you want to meditate, start with, I will sit on the cushion and meditate for 1 minute. I won't sit and meditate for 30 minutes. I remember implementing this technique in my running sessions. When we start running, everything is very bad. You feel pain everywhere. Every minute seems infinite. So to commit to this commitment, I did this micro commits process. I thought, I will run just 5 minutes, but once running those 5, I almost always continued for 20, 30 minutes. The brain is tricked by the micro commit, which seems easy and painless. For the R of repetition, I use the happy loop technique. Here is where the hack I mentioned before comes in. Repetition only becomes sustainable when you create a compact loop with 3 elements: trigger, routine, and reward. My trigger for running, setting out my running shoes and workout clothes right before bed. The routine, running even if just for 5 minutes. The reward, a special coffee that I only drink after running. This loop structure is exactly how a loop works in programming. A trigger that initiates a function, then we have the routine of this loop that returns a value, which is basically the reward. And finally, for dopamine, the technique that revolutionized my approach is personal gamification. Transform your goals into a game with points, levels, and rewards. Your brain loves this. When I started programming my first application, it seemed like a gigantic task. Then we learned that dividing into small modules makes everything easier. And using this principle of dividing parts, I created a point system. Each completed module was worth X points. Upon reaching certain levels of points, I gave myself rewards. 100 points equals to 1 hour watching a series. 500 points equals to having a free meal with my wife. or something like that. This technique is insanely effective because your brain releases dopamine not just with the final reward, but with each small progress in the game. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds great in theory, but what about in practice? I'll be honest. At first, you will face resistance. Your brain will fight against it. It will create elaborate excuses and try to convince you to return to old patterns. It happened to me when I tried to implement this system in my morning routine. I worked late and my brain always said, you need to sleep more, skip the workout today. But that's exactly where the nerd system made all the difference. I knew it was just neural resistance, not a real need. Alright, now let's recap the nerd system for you to retain what you have learned. Neuroplasticity. Your brain can form new neural pathways. Use code visualization to start this process. Stimulation. Break your goals into micro objectives so small that it would be ridiculous not to execute them. Remember the micro commits technique. R. Repetition. Create consistent loops with the habit loop technique. Trigger, routine, and reward. Now for the D of dopamine, use personal gamification to keep your brain engaged and motivated through the process. And now I want to propose a challenge for you. Choose one goal that we've been trying to achieve without success. Just one. And apply the nerd system for just 7 days. Start with code visualization tonight before sleeping. Break that goal into ridiculously small micro commits. Establish your habit loop with a clean trigger and immediate reward. And gamify the process in some way. Remember that at the beginning I said your brain is programmed to sabotage your goals? This doesn't have to be a definitive sentence. With the nerd system, you are essentially hacking millions of years of evolutionary programming, rewriting your brain's code to serve your current objectives, not the survival objectives from 10,000 years ago. Comment down below which technique of the nerd system you will implement first and for which goal. Seriously, the simple act of writing already starts creating a new neural pathways. And if you found this system interesting, you will really like my previous video, where in just 10 minutes I show you how to destroy your procrastination. In the end, remember, your brain is not your enemy. It's just following the programming it received. And like any system, with the right inputs, it can be reprogrammed to work in your favor. You are not a hostage to your old neural patterns. You are the programming of your own mind.